In this section, we're going to talk about circles. So you all know what a circle looks like, but the technical definition of a circle is the set of all points the same distance from a given point called the center. So every point on a circle is the same distance from the center. So here are some terms or parts of circles and their properties. So over here we have the terms and then the descriptions over here. So the first one is a chord. A chord is a segment that has endpoints on the circle. So an example of a chord might be something like this. Segment that starts here and goes over to here. The two endpoints of the segment are on the circle. So we could call this right here a chord. Now it might go through the center of the circle. It could touch any two ends or any two parts of the circle. That's just an example of one. The diameter is a specific type of chord that passes through the center of the circle. The diameter D, we usually label the diameter with D, is the length of such a chord. So let's say we had our center of the circle right here. The diameter is going to go right through the center. And the length of that is the length of the diameter. So this right here, diameter. And that's this whole thing here is the diameter. All right, next we have the radius. This is a segment that has endpoints at the center of the circle and on the circle. The radius r is the length of such a segment. So the radius is going to go from the center to any point on the outside of the circle. So this we'd call a radius. Now I could have had my radius right here. I could have had it right here. As long as it starts in the center and goes to the end of the circle, it's a radius. The radius, so if the diameter goes all the way across through the circle, the radius is only going to be half of that because it starts in the center and goes to the end. So the radius is always half of whatever the diameter is. So we'll say half of diameter. Therefore, the diameter is always double the radius. So we can add that. Double the radius. Okay. Next, we have something called the central angle. So a central angle is an angle with the vertex at the center of the circle. There are tons of examples of what a central angle might look like, but here's one. Something like the vertex has to be there, so this might be an example of a central angle. So it goes, the vertex is at the center, and yeah, so hence central angle. Vertex is at the center. So we'll say this is our central angle. Okay. So those are some key terms that we're going to be using throughout the chapter that you need to know. So let's do a couple example problems. Example 1 says, if the radius of a circle is 4 centimeters, what's the diameter? So if we think about this, if we have a circle, excuse my circle, that's not very good, but the radius goes from the center to the end, to an edge of the circle, and we say that's 4 centimeters. We want to know what the diameter is. So the diameter is going to go all the way across. So it's going to be double the radius. So D is going to be, well, 4 times 2 is 8. So 4 times 2, which is 8. Now for part B, it says if the diameter of the circle is 22 centimeters. So here's my circle. The diameter goes all the way across. This is 22, and we want to now know what's the radius. So what's the length from the center to the circle? Well, that's going to be half of whatever the diameter is. Remember we said the radius is always half of the diameter. So we want 1/2 of 22. 1/2 times 22 is 11. So that's going to be the length of our radius, and that was r. We always call the radius r. So there's that. Next, example 2 says name all the radii. That's the plural form of radius. So name all the radii. In other words, there's more than one. diameters, chords, and central angles shown in circle O. Now, another thing to note, circles are always labeled by whatever their center is. Since the center of the circle is O, we call this circle O. Another way we could say this, circle, that's the symbol for circle. It's a circle with the point in the middle, which is the center. So circle O. Okay, all right, so let's start with the radii. Well, I know my radii are going to go from the center to the edge of the circle. So all of these here are radii. Now, how do we label those? Well, all of these are segments. So the way I label a segment, I'll do this one first, from here to here. I'm going to call this segment OC. That's one of them. Then we've got OD. And we have OA. Those are all radii because they start at the center and they go to the edge of the circle. Okay, next, diameter. So those are going to be lines that go through the center all the way from one edge of the circle to another. The only place that happens is right here. So that's really our only diameter, is segment AD. Notice for a segment, I just put a line above the two letters. I don't put arrows. That would indicate a line. This is just a segment. Okay, now I need chords. So chords go from one edge, or they touch two edges of the circle. So I've got one right here. Touches two edges of the circle. So I'll say that is EB. This is somewhat of a trick question because the diameter is also a chord. It's a specific kind of chord, but AD also qualifies as a chord. So I'll say AD as well. And that's going to be it because this is my center. That's not an edge of a circle, so I can't say like OC or OD. Those are my chords. Okay, lastly we've got central angles. So central angles, when we're labeling angles, the center or the vertex always goes like in the middle. So, for example, this is an example of a central angle. The center of the circle is the vertex. So I'm going to say angle COD. Notice I say the vertex in the middle. So angle COD. Let's see, another angle that goes through the center is this one right here. Let's do this one in purple so you can see it better. So that right there is an example of a central angle. So I'll say AOC. I could say COA. It doesn't really matter as long as O is in the middle. So I'll say AOC is another central angle. Now technically I've got an angle right here because it's a straight angle, but it still goes through the center. I'll do that one in green. So if I think of, it's also, you know, technically the diameter, but this is an angle that goes through the center as well, AOD. Okay, so I have everything labeled, and I'm good.